So, but we know that, so we don't have an obvious explanation as to what causes it. Pregnancy is not an explanation as to what causes it, because it doesn't happen in 80% of women, right? So we can't say that's caused by pregnancy. No, in pregnancy it can happen. It tends to be a combination of things that happen. Because you're pregnant, you have a change in the activity of the muscles, right? So basically, muscles, as I always say, and this is what I call it. If you're physio and you're freaking out about this, send me an email. But basically, muscles become a dysfunctional, muscles switching off when you're pregnant. So the core muscles, your pelvic girdle, your hips, and all that sort of stuff, and that becomes then the pelvic girdle. So your I wish I never actually went through your sacroiliac joint and all that sort of stuff. Becomes and your symphysis pubis joint. So the SPJ, the symphysis pubis joint, is at the front, and the sacroiliac joint is at the back, right? But the joints become unstable because there is less support of the muscles. And then this is why I always say, by the way, I can say, which muscles are there? There's hundreds of the bloody things there. This is why you need a pelvic floor specialist, and you can't just go to a normal physio. Because as good as normal physios are, this is a really complex part of the body. The pelvic floor is remarkably complex. So I'd rather people deal with a specialist in the area. Anyways, I'm sure there's a physio out there doing backs and shoulders who disagrees with me, but I think you're wrong. This is a specialty sort of thing for me. Anyways, the pelvic girdle joints might move unevenly. So because your center of gravity shifts during pregnancy, and again, this doesn't happen in all cases. So that means the center of gravity shifts. So those two joints that I mentioned earlier, they start moving unevenly, right? And they're supported less. There's less support by the muscles, and the joints move unevenly, and that's a problem. And of course, you could have had a fall or an accident or something in your medical history that causes that. Apparently, in a small number of women, it may be caused by hormones, but we don't really know. Probably relaxin would be my guess. But apparently that is not 100% according to my latest information. And I did look into this a little bit. There's not... according to my latest information, we're not really sure. But it might be. Because the pelvic girdle and pelvic girdle pain is so remarkably complex, that also means there's no one-size-fits-all solution to it. Right? This is why you cannot just follow an online antenatal program to help you manage your pelvic girdle pain, because it's such a remarkably complex area, and everybody's slightly different. That the solution is slightly different. Who is it that I have on the internet that talks about this every now and again? It's not Conan O'Brien, by the way. It's not. Claire Bourne. I'm sure that's who it is. Claire Bourne. Yeah. Claire Bourne physio. She's a physio in London. Yeah, she's also on internet, on the internet, as if that's a fucking thing. Jesus, Pete. On Instagram, Claire, Clare, Bourne, Bourne, physio, physio. She posts some stuff about pelvic girdle pain as well, because this is kind of what she does. And she'll also tell you that everybody needs a separate, an individually tailored program. And this is not something that can be done on the internet. Physios need to have a root around and a feel. And I don't mean the roots around in the root sense of the word, but they need to be able to feel and manipulate the muscle here and there, and manipulate the joint a bit, basically move them about, see what works, see what doesn't work. So how, again, 1 in 5 women suffer from this. So how do you know whether you'll be at risk for this, at a higher risk of this? And again, this doesn't mean you'll get it. Just means that you're at higher risk than other people. If you have had more than one pregnancy, it's a lot more common in people who have second, third, and fourth pregnancies. And again, this comes down to the not doing your rehab exercises postpartum. And this is why it needs to be brought up in antenatal classes. If your pelvic floor and your pelvic girdle is not fully recovered after the first pregnancy, your PGP is likely to get much worse in your second or your third and your fourth. Same as diastasis recti. It is all kind of connected, this, guys. If you have poor posture, apparently you're more at risk of PGP. And again, that makes complete sense because alignment, we know that alignment of the body is essential for good functioning of the body. Stuff starts to switch off when you move incorrectly, when you're always in the wrong posture. Certain muscles don't work as hard as other muscles do, and then you're creating an imbalance. That's essentially what poor posture is. Misalignment is. It's an imbalance. Anyone with an imbalance is more at risk of joint problems. That's kind of what, and that's joint problems is kind of what pelvic girdle pain is. So body weight, we know this, right? I mean, I'm not slagging anyone off, but increased body weight and body mass index before and or by the end of the pregnancy. Now, that means the bigger you get during your pregnancy, the more at risk of pelvic girdle pain you are, because your body's not coping, is not equipped to deal with, it's not used to dealing with it. Jesus, English. And of course, if you've had previously have lower back problems or pelvic girdle pain issues, then or have the previous injury and all that sort of stuff, it comes up more and more. Pelvic girdle pain in your second pregnancy, you're gonna have it in your third. That is kind of just one of the ways of the world. Right. Now, to manage this, and we're talking about managing rather than helping here, as most physios do, because when you have pelvic girdle pain early on in the pregnancy, it's about managing, because the pressure on the pelvic girdle becomes more and more the later on in the pregnancy you get, because the baby gets heavier, right? There's going to be more baby. If you're listening to this, if you've had a kid, you might have had the little app, right? It starts off as a grape, and it moves to all of a sudden it's a banana. I don't know what that's about. And it's a kiwi fruit and all that sort of stuff. So you start measuring fruit, and it gets bigger and bigger. And by the end, when you really want rid of it, you can imagine there's all of a sudden there's a watermelon sitting on your pelvic girdle.